You know, there's this story we tell ourselves in Canada all the time, that we're in this constant battle for our best talent with the US. But the real story behind this so-called brain drain, well, it's way more complicated, and honestly, a lot more interesting than what you see in the headlines.
So let's just get right to the heart of it. Is Canada really losing its best and brightest to the United States? I mean, you hear this all the time, right? Especially if you're in the tech world. But is that whole story actually true? Let's dig in and see what's really driving this idea.
A lot of the time, this whole conversation starts with a number. And wow, this one's a biggie. 154,000 US dollars. That's the average salary difference we're talking about for a software engineer in San Francisco versus one in Toronto. And a gap that huge? Well, you just can't ignore it.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about those powerful economic magnets, that undeniable pull of the South. And look, we're not just talking about a few top execs here. A recent survey from ComIT found that almost 2/3 of Canadian IT workers would think about moving to the US for a similar job. That shows a really widespread desire to go after those bigger opportunities.
But the story goes even deeper than just salaries. A study from the Fraser Institute found this really stark difference in how the two countries value immigrant talent. Get this. In the US, highly skilled immigrants actually earn a little bit more than their native-born peers. But in Canada, it's the complete opposite. They earn a whopping 16% less. That's a really tough pill to swallow.
And you know, it isn't just about the paycheck. It's about actually using your skills. That same study highlighted a huge underemployment problem. I mean, just imagine having a university degree, but you're stuck in a job that only needs a high school diploma. Well, that's the reality for more than a quarter of recent, highly educated immigrants in Canada. That's 3 times the rate for people born in Canada.
So this isn't just a personal problem for folks. It has massive national consequences. A Bank of Canada report actually links this loss of top talent directly to Canada's overall economic health. It found that it's the highest earners leaving that are responsible for most of that growing productivity gap with the US.
Okay, so everything seems to be pointing in one direction, right? A simple, one-way street south. But this is where the story takes a really interesting twist. It turns out that river of talent, it doesn't just flow in one direction.
Yeah, in a pretty bold countermove, Canada launched this new fast-track work permit program. And who are they targeting? 10,000 tech workers who weren't U.S. citizens, but were living in the States. A lot of them were on those H-1B visas, and their futures were pretty uncertain.
So how did that go? Well, Canada hit its target of 10,000 applicants in just 48 hours. Not weeks, not days. 2 days. The demand was instant, and it was absolutely overwhelming.
This quote from a discussion on Reddit really nails the strategy. Someone wrote, "So after tens of thousands of these workers were laid off, they face either finding a new job in a shrinking market or deportation. Canada said, hey, talent for grabs, let's go." And that's exactly it. After all those US tech layoffs, Canada basically saw an opportunity and offered these incredibly skilled people a stable path forward.
So what we have here are two totally competing stories, right? A brain drain heading south, but also this strategic pull bringing talent north. To figure out what's really going on, we have to look past the headlines and get into the official long-term data.
I mean, with this surprising flow of talent into Canada, it makes you wonder, right? What has the migration pattern actually looked like over the long haul? Does that whole brain drain story really hold up when you look at the numbers? And this is where the plot really thickens. Statistic Canada did a deep dive and found some incredible stuff. First off, permanent migration from Canada to the US, it's actually been going down. Then there's this. The number of Canadian-born people moving south permanently dropped by 30% in just a decade. And maybe the most surprising thing of all, since 2018, the flow of people between the two countries has become pretty much balanced.
So, if fewer people born in Canada are leaving, then who is making the move south? Well, this brings us to this really important idea called second-step migration. Think of it like this. For some people, Canada isn't the final destination, it's a stepping stone. They immigrate to Canada first, and then they make a second move to the United States.
And this chart right here shows you just how big of a deal this is. Take a look at the breakdown of Canadian citizens applying for permanent jobs in the US this year. A huge majority, that 60% slice, were not born in Canada. They're former immigrants, now taking that second step.
So what does this all mean? Well, it means the decision to move one way or the other isn't just about a dollar figure on a paycheck. It's a really complex trade-off for people, and it has huge implications for both Canada and the US.
This comment from someone on Reddit really puts the financial problem in plain language. They said, it's $200K plus extra housing cost and 25 to 30% or more decrease in salary for a comparable job. That's a hit that's too hard on my family. For them, choosing Canada meant this massive financial sacrifice that they just couldn't make.
But then you've got the long game. Someone else chimed in with the other side of the coin, saying 10 years later, when they wanted to start/raise families, most of them came back. If you want to have kids, Canada can come out ahead. So for many, things that matter later in life, like raising a family, can actually make Canada the better choice in the end.
So really, when you boil it all down, it comes down to this clear set of trade-offs. The big pull to the US is the higher pay and maybe more opportunity. But the big challenge is the visa insecurity. For Canada, the main draw is that visa stability and a clear path to becoming a citizen. But the downside is the lower pay and the high cost of living. They're just two very different deals being offered to the world's top talent.
And all of this leaves us with one last big question. In this global war for talent, what's more valuable in the end? The bigger paycheck right now or the safer long-term bet? The answer to that question is literally shaping the future of both countries.